Hi, I'm Nicole Chamberlain. I'm the composer of the piece Chivy that won the National Flute Association's Flute Choir Composition Competition. And if you're seeing this video, you're going to be premiering it or maybe later performing it at the convention. And I wanted to go over a lot of the extended techniques that I used in the piece that may be new to most of you. So we're going to get started with some of the extended techniques that everybody uses, first flutes, second flutes, third flutes, and the low flutes. So some of them are the beatboxing techniques. And we're going to start with the easiest one. And you've probably noticed that there are letters over some of the notes, like CH or ch. And so what we're going to do is actually use those syllables to blow across our flute to create a different kind of sound. And it will not be a fluty sound. It will be a percussive sound. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. Luckily, I'm a flutist. So the first one we're going to address is ch, which everybody has at some point. So a good way to practice these techniques, which kind of fall under the beatboxing techniques, would be to practice them without your flute first. So for cha, we're just going to go ch, ch, ch. And I would recommend you practice that a lot without your flute. When you're ready, you can try it. So we're just going to finger, how about low A just for today. So I have my A fingering. I put my flute up to my face, and I'm just going to do cha. Cha! Cha! So it doesn't make a flute sound. I do not have a flute face on when I do it. And the flute just amplifies the pitch, and you'll hear a lot of overtones from other notes. And that's fine. The louder and kind of grosser it is, the better. So you can do it on other notes too. You can kind of work with your mouth and see which pitch works best for you. And then once we've done that, we can kind of move on to some other things, which also the low flutes have as well. There's this combination, ch, k. So CH, then KI, then BOO. So ch, we know. Then we have k, which you can do more of a k sound if that works. And then the last one is boo, which is going to be kind of like our bass drum. You will spit a lot when you do this, so just embrace it. So together, those syllables, we get chickaboo, which will sound like chickaboo, chickaboo. And I'll do it on my flute. Chickaboo, chickaboo, chickaboo. Now, I don't think the C flutes really have that combination, but the low flutes do. And it just so happens that I'm a bass flute player, and so I have my bass flute. So alto flutes will sound very similar. And it actually works better on the low flutes. Now, low flutes, you have a lot of the beatboxing. So if you've got a low flute part, yay, you're going to have so much fun. So those are how you do those, and that's what they sound like. Now, another one the low flutes have especially is the SHH. And so that's shh, just like shh, be quiet. And we want a lot of that air sound running through our teeth. And you'll see it right off the bat. It's in measure 1 and 2 for the low flutes. You notice I kind of have my lips pulled down so I can get the air into my flute. And again, your flute is just amplifying that sound. Now, sometimes you'll see quarter notes with the sh. So if you put a little more accent on it, it'll be a little cleaner. And that's just how you go about doing that. Pretty simple. It may take a little getting used to because you're used to having that flute face happen as soon as your flute comes up. We're just kind of trained that way. But that's why I would encourage you to practice without your flute so you can get the hang of doing those syllables before you add it on. Now, another fun thing that most people have are the pitch bends. And you'll see a little arrow after a pitch. What we're going to do is we're just going to pull down that pitch as low as we can. And you can do it by a number of ways. You can lip down. You can pull your head down. and you can roll in. And if you did all three, it makes a really dramatic effect. You can get really low. You just want to play as flat as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it's over, if you have the dotted half note, you just start bending over the duration of the note. And again, it does not have to be precise. It just has to have the effect. And the same thing for low flutes, it works just as well. And it also works a piccolo. So, no excuses. Everybody can play out of tune. It's something we all know how to do very well. And then another fun thing, which is just in the C flutes, is singing and playing. This one's a little more complicated. I would direct you to see Nina Perlove's YouTube videos on singing and playing. She has some amazing ones. For the beatboxing ones, Greg Patillo has some amazing ones as well if you want to do more of that. This is kind of your gateway into that kind of stuff. But the singing and playing happens in measure 82 for first and second flutes. And it's not like regular singing. Like we all sing la, and it sounds great. But when you sing and play, you have to blow more air out in order to make the flute resonate. So it's going to sound silly if you did it without your flute. It'll sound more like la, because you're blowing air out. Or loo, because you're going to blow a lot of air out. So I'm just going to play an example of what it sounds like. So your flute note isn't going to sound pretty either. It's going to sound really, really dirty. And that's what you want. I'll play it one more time so you can hear it. And if I didn't have my flute, it'd be I'm blowing a lot of air out when I sing. And without singing, it sounds. It's a great habit. It's a great aesthetic technique to use. It'll make your tone better. You'll have better control of your voice, of your air, of where you place your pitches. So I would encourage you to sing and play a lot. It's very eye-opening. Another thing to try that the low flutes don't have to do this. It's just the C flutes. It's harder to do on the low flutes, and it's not really effective, so I try to avoid it. But for C flutes, we're going to do the jet whistle. Now, here's what it sounds like, and then I'll explain how this happens. So that's the sound we're looking for. Now, what we're doing, in this instance, we're fingering low C. I am going to put this flute in my mouth. I'm going to cover the hole with my lips. But I'm going to keep the flute positioned up. This is very important. If you roll the flute too far back, it's not going to be as fun. But I get more overtones if my flute is up top. All right. So I'm going to get really close and personal so you can see how this is operating. See where my flute is up? I'm not rolling that flute plate back. Doesn't sound as good, and I'd have to use a lot more air. If I do it this way, I don't have to work as hard. So you may want to try that. That will take a lot of work, and you'll get dizzy if you do a lot of these jet whistles in a row. So be careful. And it's good fun when you finally find that sweet spot. The last thing that is on my list of extended techniques is something I'd hope you'd be familiar with at this point in your life, and that's flutter tonguing. And that's indicated with 3 flags and like maybe a quarter note or an eighth note. And sometimes they'll have FL. I don't think in this instance I did because I did it so many times. So another good example where it is flute 3. You have it in measure 83 and you see eighth notes. And so flutter tonguing can be done in a number of ways. You can do it if you are really good at rolling your R's. You can do it with your tongue. And then that sound would produce, or if I didn't move my lips. so I'm blowing air, letting my tongue flap. A lot of people can't do that. Another way, and a way that flutist Robert Dick prefers, it seems, is by gargling or using your uvula in the back of your throat. So if you gargle water, you could do this technique. And if you can't really yet, you can learn. And I would like to refer you to Robert Dick's video on YouTube on flutter tonguing, and he does it with a glass of water. And I've used it with my students who said they couldn't flutter tongue, and it's worked. So I would refer you to that. But if you don't, if you want to try it just really quickly, you can do like Chewbacca in Star Wars. So, and it's the back of my throat, and I'm just letting that flutter, for lack of a better word, or gargle, or growl. Some people call it a growl. So it sounds pretty similar. So I do the high C's. Now, I like to do the growl when it's low in the register, because the low flutes, you have it too, and it's really low. And I have better luck with the growling technique in the lower register. It doesn't seem to break apart the sound. And I can get it pretty effective. And you can do the same thing on your bass flute, or your alto, or the contrabass. Very slow and a growl. So that's the rough idea for the extended techniques. Hopefully they'll provide you also with recordings so you can hear the whole piece. And then I will also be there at the rehearsals at the Flute Convention. And I look forward to working with everyone and meeting you, and hopefully having fun making some weird sounds on our flute that you don't usually get to do. And I can't wait to hear the world premiere. Thank you for spending so much time on it. I appreciate it, and willing to learn new things and getting out of your comfort zone. It'll make you a better flutist.